Welcome back, everyone. I'm excited for today's deep dive. You've brought in some amazing material all about the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, a ton of information on this iconic landmark. It's going to be fun to really dig in and go beyond just those surface level facts.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's seen pictures of it, but there's so much more to it than meets the eye,
Yeah.
right?
And you've given us such a great collection of sources to work with here.
Okay, so starting with the basics, we're talking about the Taj Mahal, located in Agra, Uttar Pradesh in India.
On the banks of the Yamuna River, a pretty crucial detail for later when we get into the symbolism of it all.
Right. Okay, so most people know it's a tomb, not just any tomb, though, right?
Not at all. It's a mausoleum commissioned in 1631 by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan to house the remains of his wife, Mumtaz Mahal.
And later, he was buried there too, right?
Yes, alongside Mumtaz Mahal. But the original intent was really for her.
Makes sense. And it's not just the tomb itself, right? It's a whole complex.
Exactly. The whole complex is spread out over 17 hectares. That's like 42 acres, including a mosque, a guest house, and those beautifully laid out formal gardens.
So not just a quick visit then.
Not if you want to truly appreciate it. It's massive. And it took a long time to build, starting in 1631 and finally being completed in 1653.
Wow, over 2 decades.
Yeah, a huge undertaking. And architecturally speaking, it's incredibly significant. This fusion of Indo-Islamic and Mughal architecture is a real hallmark.
It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site too.
Designated in 1983, yes. UNESCO called it the jewel of Islamic art in India. And it's not just an architectural marvel, it's a major tourist destination, attracting something like 5 million visitors every year.
Wow, 5 million.
And it's one of the new 7 wonders of the world, which, that's really saying something about its impact.
Definitely. I mean, just the name Taj Mahal itself evokes so much, right?
Yeah.
But I bet most people don't know where that name comes from.
Yeah. The etymology is interesting. It comes from Urdu, but it's believed to be derived from Arabic and Persian. Taj Mahal literally meaning crown of the palace.
Crown of the palace. Interesting that they'd choose that name for a tomb, right?
It is pretty grand, yeah. It speaks to the status of the person it was built for, definitely. But it actually wasn't the original name. If you look at the Padshanama, a historical chronicle of 1636, it's referred to as Rauza-i Munawwara.
Rausa-i Munawwara.
Yep. That means the illumined or illustrious tomb.
Ah, that's beautiful.
It is, right? Highlights the reverence surrounding it, not just as a tomb, but as something almost holy.
And there's another theory about the name Taj Mahal, right? Something more personal.
Yeah, some believe that Taj is a shortened, maybe even a kind of colloquial version of Mumtaz.
A tribute to Mumtaz Mahal herself.
Exactly. Imagine people over time just naturally shortening it to something more familiar and intimate.
It's really sweet, actually.
It is. Adds another layer of meaning to the whole thing.
So we've got this grand name with multiple layers of meaning, and all of it comes back to this incredible love story that inspired the Taj Mahal.
Yeah. Shah Jahan commissioned it as a testament to his love and grief for his wife, Mumtaz Mahal. She died in childbirth on June 17th, 1631.
Their 14th child, right?
That's right. It really speaks to their long and close relationship, and her death deeply affected Shah Jahan. Contemporary accounts, like those from Muhammad Amin Qazvini and Abdul Hamid Lahori, they describe his profound grief.
Yeah, he was heartbroken.
He went into seclusion for a week and even gave up music, luxurious clothes, and perfumes for 2 whole years. A real sign of his devotion and the depth of his mourning.
A real statement. And then there's the location he chose for the Taj. It wasn't just any random spot.
Absolutely. The chosen site was on the south bank of the Yamuna River in Agra. It was actually the location of a beautiful mansion owned by Raja Jai Singh, a powerful Rajput ruler.
Prime real estate. I'm guessing he didn't just give it up easily.
Well, he did, but it was an exchange. He gave the land to Shah Jahan, and in return he was granted a grand palace in the heart of Agra.
A pretty sweet deal, even for a ruler. So this love story, this deep loss, and this exchange of power and land all kind of set the stage for the creation of the Taj Mahal.
It really does. And then there's the architecture itself, the scale, the symmetry. It's all designed to be incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
The entire complex is strategically situated on this raised platform right next to the Yamuna River.
Right by the water.
And the design, it's this really intentional blend of Indo-Islamic and Mughal architecture, drawing on centuries of tradition.
Yeah, I read that the architects were inspired by earlier buildings like the Ghuriya Mir and Humayun's tomb.
Exactly. The Ghuriya Mir, Timur's tomb in Samarkand, with its central dome and those geometric patterns, that was definitely an influence. And Humayun's tomb in Delhi, that was a significant precedent too. especially when it comes to the Charba Garden layout and the Hashed Behesh plan.
The eight paradises concept, right? With everything organized symmetrically.
That's it. The symmetry in the Taj Mahal isn't just for looks. It's deeply symbolic, reflecting the idea of harmony and a kind of cosmic order.
And then there are the materials. That white marble is just so striking.
The mausoleum itself is almost entirely white marble, inlaid with all sorts of semi-precious stones.
Yeah.
But the other buildings, the gateways, the mosque, those are made of red sandstone.
So a visual contrast there.
Right. Maybe meant to symbolize the difference between the sacredness of the tomb and the more everyday functions of the other buildings. And all of that is built on top of a massive platform about 300 meters long and over 8 meters high.
So it's really elevated, set apart.
Yeah, like its own little world.
Yeah.
And that platform is made of sandstone, too dark and light, alternating, so it's beautiful on its own.
A work of art even before you get to the main structure. Okay, so that central building itself, it's not just a box. It's got a lot going on.
So much detail. It's basically a large cube, but with the corners beveled chamfered is the architectural term, giving it 8 sides. And it sits on a square plinth about 6 meters high, with each side being 95.5 meters long.
It's huge.
Oh, yeah. And each of those sides has a grand iwan, that's the arched doorway. And above each iwan, there's the big dome, the finial, and these flanking archways called pishtaks. Those are 33 meters high.
So much symmetry and repetition.
Exactly. And even those angled corners have smaller versions of the iwan and the pishtaks mirroring the main design. And you enter the mausoleum from the south side through 2 sets of stairs leading up from the gardens.
Everything leads towards that central dome. And that dome, it's really the most iconic part of the Taj Mahal, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's 23 meters high, made of marble, and has that classic onion shape, which is so typical of Mughal architecture. And it sits on a big cylindrical drum, about 12 meters high.
I read that the dome is actually slightly asymmetrical, which is surprising given how symmetrical everything else is.
Yeah, there's a tiny bit of asymmetry, kind of a human touch. And on top of the dome, there's the finial that's 9.6 meters high and gilded.
So shiny.
Yeah, it would have been even shinier originally since it was made of solid gold.
Wow.
They replaced it with gilded bronze in the 19th century, though. And where the dome meets the drum, there's this beautiful molding that looks like a twisted rope. And then there are the smaller domes. Right?
The 4 little ones around the big one.
Yeah, those are called chatras. They echo that onion shape,
Okay.
and they're supported by these slender columns. They're open underneath, so they actually let some light in. And there are these tall, thin spires called guldastas along the edges of the walls, too. Mainly decorative,
Yeah.
but they really add to the verticality of the design.
And both the main dome and the chatras have that lotus flower motif at the base.
Yep. It's a really common element in Indian art.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that finial on top. It's a really interesting blend of Persian and Indian styles.
And it has that crescent moon symbol on it, right?
That's right. And the horns point up towards the heavens, which is typical in Islamic symbolism. So you've got the dome and those smaller domes. And then there are the minarets.
The 4 towers.
Exactly. One at each corner of the plinth. Each one is over 40 meters high and perfectly symmetrical. They're divided into 3 sections with balconies and topped with their own chatras and finials.
And you can go up inside them, right?
Yeah, there are spiral staircases inside that lead to the upper levels. And there are little windows below the domes for light and air. Historically, minarets were used by the muezzin to call people to prayer. But at the Taj Mahal, they had another important function.
Oh.
They were built to tilt slightly outwards.
Tilt.
Just a little. It was a safety feature. So if there was an earthquake, the minarets would fall away from the main tomb.
Oh, that's clever. So they wouldn't damage the tomb.
Okay.
We've covered the basic structure, but we can't forget about all that incredible decoration.
Right. The exterior surfaces are covered in intricate relief carvings and inlays. And they used a crazy number of precious and semi-precious stones, 28 different types.
28. Where did they even get all those?
They were brought in from all over the world. Jade and crystal from China, turquoise from Tibet, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, sapphire from Sri Lanka, carnelian from Arabia. The Mughals had a vast trade network.
It's like a collection of the world's treasures.
It really is. They used all sorts of techniques, paint, stucco, carving, and pietra dura, which is that super detailed stone inlay work. And since Islamic art generally avoids depicting humans and animals, they focused on calligraphy, geometric patterns, and stylized plants and flowers.
So lots of flowers and beautiful writing then.
Exactly. You see these amazing bas-relief carvings of plants and flowers on the white marble, and then the frames around doorways and those triangular spaces above, arches. The spandrels are decorated with pietra dura. Tiny little pieces of colored stone all fitted together to make these intricate patterns of vines and flowers and fruit.
It must have taken forever to do that.
Oh, incredibly time-consuming. And the red sandstone buildings, they have their own kind of decoration too. Lots of geometric designs, often made by incising lines into the stone and then painting them. They also used white inlay in the red sandstone and black or dark inlay in the white marble.
So lots of contrast.
Yep, and even the floors have these beautiful geometric patterns made with different colored tiles or stones. Every detail is considered.
And the calligraphy, that's a big part of it too.
A major element. The gateway arches have these beautiful inscriptions from the Quran, often written in Thuluth script, which is really elegant. And they use jasper and black marble for the lettering, inlaid into the white marble. And the higher up the calligraphy is, the bigger the letters are.
Why is that?
So it's easier to read from below. They really thought of everything.
It's amazing. And is there a particular inscription that stands out?
The one on the southern gateway is really beautiful. It says, "O soul, thou art at rest. Return to the Lord at peace with him, and he at peace with you."
Wow. A very welcoming message for those entering. And do we know who the calligrapher was?
Most of the calligraphy is attributed to a man named Abdul Haq, who was given the title Amanat Khan by Shah Jahan. He was obviously highly skilled. And there's even an inscription inside the dome where he calls himself the insignificant being Amanat Khan Shirazi.
Pretty humble considering his amazing work. So from the huge dome down to those tiny inlaid stones, so much artistry went into creating the Taj Mahal.
It really shows the level of skill and dedication they had.
Now let's go inside. What's the interior like?
The main chamber is octagonal, 8 sides, each 7.3 meters long. And you can enter from any of the sides, though the main entrance is on the south side, facing the gardens. And inside, just like the exterior, you've got those pishtak arches, 2 tiers of them lining each wall.
I remember reading about balconies inside.
Yes. The 4 central upper arches are actually little balconies or viewing areas. And those balconies, as well as most of the interior walls, have jolly screens. These beautiful lattice screens.
They let the light in, right?
Exactly. They filter the light, creating a really soft, ethereal glow inside.
So it's not dark and gloomy at all.
Not at all. The light changes throughout the day as it passes through the screens. It's really stunning. And the walls are about 25 meters high, topped by a false dome decorated with a sun motif.
False dome. Why is it called that?
Because the real structural dome is above it. This one is mainly for decoration and acoustics.
That's interesting.
And every wall is covered in decoration, those bas-relief carvings, the gemstone inlays, and more calligraphy. It's like the exterior, but even more intricate.
And in the center of it all are the cenotaphs, the tombs of Mumtaz Mahal and Shah Jahan.
Well, not the actual tombs. These are symbolic. The real sarcophagi are in a plain chamber underneath, accessible by staircase.
Oh, so there's a lower level.
Yeah. It's where the actual burials are. The cenotaphs we see in the main chamber are more like memorials, and they're surrounded by these incredibly detailed, jolly screens called Majari Mushabak. Each one is made of 8 carved marble panels, inlaid with precious stones.
It sounds incredibly elaborate.
Yeah.
And are the 2 cenotaphs the same?
Not quite. Mumtaz Mahal's is in the exact center, on a beautifully carved base. Shah Jahan's is a bit to the west, on a slightly larger base, which actually makes the arrangement slightly asymmetrical.
I would never have noticed that.
Most people don't. And there's a small pen box carved on top of his cenotaph.
A pen box.
It's a symbol of a male burial. And the real sarcophagi down below, they're aligned north-south, with their heads to the north and their faces turned west towards Mecca. That's following traditional Islamic burial customs.
So even in death, there's this attention to symbolism and tradition.
Definitely. And the decoration on the cenotaphs is fascinating. Mumtaz Mahal's has inlays of plums, flower buds, and blossoms, along with verses for the Quran. And her epitaph includes her name and the year she died, 1631. The real sarcophagus down below is much simpler, with just the 99 names of Allah inscribed on it.
And Shah Jahan's cenotaph.
It has similar floral decorations and scrollwork, but no inscription on the main part. His epitaph is on a separate section, surrounded by red poppies, and it lists his titles and the year he died, 1666. His real sarcophagus down below is simple too, but it has a much longer inscription with all his titles and the exact date of his death.
So much thought and detail in every single element. It's incredible. Now, as we step back out into the sunshine, we come to the gardens. Those are a major part of the Taj Mahal, aren't they?
Definitely not just an afterthought. The whole complex is designed around this huge charba, a traditional Mughal garden.
And those gardens are divided into 4 sections, right?
That's right, 4 quadrants, separated by walkways called kiyaban. and each quadrant is divided into 16 smaller flower beds with raised pathways in between, and then there's another walkway all the way around the outside.
And that long reflecting pool down the center, that's the most iconic part of the gardens, right?
Probably. It's right in the middle, between the tomb and the main gateway, so it creates this perfect reflection of the Taj Mahal.
The symmetry continues even in the water.
Right. And that central pool is part of a raised marble water tank with 5 fountains. It's called Hod al-Kawthar.
Hod al-Kawthar.
Yeah, it's named after the tank of abundance that's promised to the Prophet Muhammad in paradise.
So even the water features have symbolic meaning.
Absolutely. And then the rest of the garden has avenues of trees and more fountains. It must have been so beautiful when it was first created.
I bet it was. And I read that there's a spot in the garden that marks Mumtaz Mahal's original burial place.
Yeah, it's in the northwest quadrant. She was buried there temporarily before being moved to the mausoleum. It's kind of a hidden detail.
It's interesting to think about that. Now, the Charbagh design itself, it's more than just a pretty garden, right?
Definitely not.
Oh,
It's
right.
deeply symbolic. The 4 quadrants, the water flowing through, it's all meant to represent paradise, Jenna.
With the 4 rivers.
Right, the 4 rivers of paradise. And the Taj Mahal's garden is actually unusual in the way it's laid out.
How so?
Well, most Mughal tombs are right in the center of their gardens. But the Taj Mahal is at the southern end. And they found evidence of another garden, Mehtab Bagh, the Moonlight Garden, across the river.
On the other side of the Yamuna.
Exactly. So some believe that the river itself was meant to be part of the garden design, like it's one of the 4 rivers of paradise.
Wow, that changes the whole perspective. And the gardens haven't always looked the way they do now, right?
No. Early accounts describe them as being much more lush and full of flowers, roses, daffodils, fruit trees. But when the Mughal Empire declined, the gardens fell into disrepair. And then when the British took over, they redesigned them in a more European style, with big open lawns.
So what we see today is more of a British interpretation, and keeping those gardens watered must have been a challenge back then.
It was a feat of engineering, for sure. They had this whole system to get water from the Yamuna. They built a channel that fed into a huge underground reservoir. And then they used pulleys and water wheels powered by animals to lift the water up to another tank.
A lot of effort.
Oh, yeah. And from that upper tank, the water flowed through an aqueduct to the west wall of the complex, and then east from there, with pipes running underground all throughout the garden. And the fountains in that central tank, they were powered by gravity copper vessels connected by pipes, with the water flowing downhill.
Amazing how they figured all that out. So we've got the tomb and the gardens, but the complex is bigger than that, right? There are walls and other buildings too.
Yeah, it's all enclosed by these high, red sandstone walls with battlements along the top, except for the north side, which is open to the river. And outside the walls, there are a few other smaller mausoleums for some of Shah Jahan's other wives, some royals, and even some favored servants.
So it's like a whole little city.
In a way, yeah. And along the inside of those walls, there are these colonnaded walkways with more chatras and little buildings here and there. One of them is called the Music House. And then there's the main gateway, the Darwaza.
The grand entrance.
Exactly. It's mostly marble and very similar in style to the main tomb. Lots of carvings and pietratura. And at the far ends of the complex, to the east and west, there are 2 big red sandstone buildings that look almost identical.
I've seen those in pictures. They're symmetrical to the tomb, right?
That's right. One of them is the mosque, and the other is called the Jawab, which means answer. It was built just for symmetry, to create balance. The mosque is a traditional design with a mihrab, that niche that shows the direction of Mecca for prayer. But the Jawab has no mihrab. It's just there to mirror the mosque.
So everything is balanced. No detail was too small to be considered. Now, building something as huge and complex as the Taj Mahal must have been a massive undertaking. Where did they even start?
Well, first they had to get the land, which we talked about that exchange with Raja Jai Singh the Knight. Then they had to prepare the site. They excavated a huge area and filled it with dirt to create a level surface, about 50 meters above the river. And where the tomb was going to be, they dug deep wells and filled them with lime and stone to make a super strong foundation.
So it wouldn't sink.
Exactly. Then they built the platform for the mausoleum using brick and lime mortar.
And the materials themselves came from all over, right?
They did. The main structure is mostly brick, covered with marble or sandstone. The white marble came from Akrana in Rajasthan. It's known for being really high quality. The red sandstone came from the quarries at Fatehpur Sikri. And then all those precious stones for the inlay, those came from even further afield, China, Tibet, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka.
A truly global project.
It really was. It's estimated that over 20,000 people worked on the Taj Mahal, artisans, laborers, painters. They brought in experts from all over, sculptors from Bukhara, calligraphers from Syria and Persia, designers from southern India, stonecutters from Baluchistan, even some European artisans, maybe Italian specialists in Pietratura.
It's mind-blowing to think about coordinating all those people and materials.
They used some pretty incredible techniques for the time. Instead of wooden scaffolding, they built a giant brick scaffold that was the same shape as the tomb. And to move all that heavy marble, they built a 15-kilometer-long earthen ramp. Think about that, a 15-kilometer ramp.
It's incredible.
They used oxen and elephants to haul the stone up the ramp on carts. And then they had this system of pulleys and beams to lift the blocks into place. And for water, they used those animal-powered water lifting devices we talked about earlier.
It was a project on an epic scale.
It really was. It took over 2 decades to complete, from 1632 to 1653. And in 1643, Shah Jahan actually held a ceremony at the partially finished mausoleum to mark the 12th anniversary of Mumtaz Mahal's death.
It must have been amazing to see it take shape.
I can't imagine. And the cost, it's estimated that it was around 32 million rupees at the time, which would be like 827 million US dollars today.
An unbelievable sum, a real testament to Shah Jahan's devotion.
Absolutely. But even after it was finished, the Taj Mahal story didn't end there. In 1652, Shah Jahan's son, Aurangzeb, wrote to him about some leaks in the buildings.
Leaks in the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, apparently they were having some issues with water getting in during the monsoon season. And then in 1658, Aurangzeb actually overthrew his father and put him under house arrest in the Agra fort.
Wow, talk about family drama.
Right. And poor Shah Jahan spent his last years looking at the Taj Mahal from his window, unable to visit it.
That's so sad.
He died in 1666 and was buried next to Mumtaz Mahal. But even then, the Taj Mahal faced other challenges. In the 18th century, there were attacks by Jat rulers from Bharatpur. They looted some of the precious decorations, including 2 chandeliers, one made of agate, the other of silver. They even took the gold shield that covered the finial on top of the dome.
It's a shame that such a beautiful monument was subjected to that kind of destruction.
It is. But luckily, there were also efforts to preserve it. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Lord Curzon, the Viceroy of India, oversaw a major restoration project. He was really committed to preserving India's cultural heritage.
I read that he also changed the gardens.
Yeah, he had them redesigned in that European style we talked about earlier. And during World War II and the India-Pakistan wars, they actually camouflaged the Taj Mahal with scaffolding to protect it from air raids.
It's amazing how much history it's witnessed.
Yeah. It really is a symbol of India. And then, of course, it was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1983, which helped to ensure its protection.
But it still faces threats today, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Pollution is a major concern. Acid rain and pollution from the Yamuna River are causing the marble to turn yellow.
That's terrible.
The Indian government has taken steps to address it. They created the Taj Trapezium Zone, the TTZ, in 1997.
What does that do?
It's a 10,400 square kilometer area around the Taj where they've restricted polluting industries. They've also banned vehicles from driving too close to the monument.
So hopefully that will help.
It's an ongoing battle. And there have been concerns about the structural integrity of the Taj Mahal, with groundwater levels declining and some minor damage from storms.
I hope they're able to address those issues.
They're doing a lot of restoration work, using mud packs to clean the marble, replacing damaged stones. It's an ongoing process.
Because it's so important to preserve this incredible monument. It's not just a building, it's a symbol of so much.
Exactly. It's a symbol of India, of course, but also of love, of loss, of the power of art and architecture. It's a symbol of Shah Jahan's wealth and power, too. It took a lot of resources to create something this grand.
And it's full of symbolism, right?
Layers and layers of it. The symmetry, the north-south alignment, that's not random. It aligns with the solstices, the sunrises and sunsets on the longest and shortest days of the year. And the way the tomb is placed at the end of the garden, that's unusual too.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Some scholars believe it was meant to represent Mumtaz Mahal's mansion in the Garden of Paradise.
That's a beautiful interpretation.
And then there's the marble itself. It's translucent, and the way it's inlaid with those precious stones, it changes color depending on the light. That technique is called parchinkari. It's incredibly intricate.
It's like the building itself is alive.
And the reflections in the pools, those are important too. The marble, the water, it all kind of blends together, reflecting the sky, the light. It's all meant to evoke a sense of the divine.
I get chills just thinking about it.
And there's a scholar, Ebba Koch, who's studied the Taj Mahal extensively. She believes that the whole design is meant to symbolize the journey from earthly life to the afterlife.
Interesting. How so?
Well, the red sandstone buildings, those are on the side closest to the city representing earthly life.
Yeah.
And then you cross through the main gate, and you're in the realm of the white marble, the tomb, and the garden, symbolizing the afterlife.
Wow, that's deep.
It really makes you think about how much thought and meaning went into every aspect of the Taj Mahal. And then there's the whole tourism aspect. 5 million visitors a year.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's become a real global icon. And India has implemented a 3-tier pricing system for entrance fees, different rates for locals, citizens of SAARC countries, and foreigners.
To manage the crowds.
In part, yeah. They've also restricted polluting vehicles near the Taj. And they have electric buses for visitors.
That's good.
It's open every day except Friday, from sunrise to about 45 minutes before sunset. And you can do night viewing on full moon nights, except during Ramadan.
So there are options for seeing it at different times.
Right. And in 2019, they actually started finding people who stay longer than 3 hours, trying to deal with the over-tourism.
I guess that makes sense. It's important to protect the Taj for future generations.
Absolutely. Historically, there was a whole area near the Taj called Taj Ganji or Mumtazabad that was dedicated to housing visitors and workers. It was a bustling little town.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. And over the years, the Taj Mahal has been featured on so many lists of must-see travel destinations, wonders of the world. It's become a symbol of India itself. Foreign dignitaries almost always visit it when they come to India.
It's a real point of pride.
Definitely. And of course, with something this famous, there are bound to be myths and legends.
Oh, yeah. I've heard some crazy ones, like the story of the Black Taj Mahal.
Right. That one started with Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, a French traveler who wrote about it in the 17th century. The idea was that Shah Jahan was planning to build a black marble replica of the Taj Mahal across the river as his own tomb. Yeah, a little. But there's no evidence for it. There were some excavations in a garden across the river called Mehtab Bagh, the Moonlight Garden.
Maybe that's where it was going to be.
That was the thought. But they didn't find anything to support the theory. Some people think Tavernier might have just seen the dark reflection of the Taj in the river and misconstrued it.
An optical illusion.
Could be.
Oh.
And then there are those stories about Shah Jahan cutting off the hands of the architects and craftsmen so they couldn't build anything as beautiful again.
A bit gruesome.
Yeah, and totally untrue.
Oh.
It's just a myth. There's no historical basis for it. It's like that other myth about Lord William Bentinck, a British governor general, wanting to demolish the Taj and sell off the marble. That never happened either.
I guess people love a good story, even if it's not true.
It's human nature.